Bismillah, Bismillah. Bismillah, Bismillah, Bismillah. Bismillah, Bismillah, Bismillah. Bismillah, Bismillah, Bismillah. Good? Salam. Abdullah. Abdullah. No. Small. And then can you push more forward instead of people?
Oh, you mean the camera?
Yeah. Okay then. No.
Mashallah, you're a tall guy.
Mm-hmm.
So you should be fine.
Yeah, for me, don't worry about me. Allah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wa salam ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursaleen, Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in, Allahumma allimna ma yanfa'una wa anfa'na bima 'allamtana wa zidna bi fadlika ilma ya Rabbil Alameen. Now we're back to our home, right after a very long break of jumping from one book to the other book and to the other book, inshallah. And now, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we're going back to the book of prayer. And in the book of prayer, we've covered a lot of things. And today, bi'idhnillah, we'll be covering about the prayer of a traveler, okay? The prayer of a traveler is going to be in two different facets. It's either going to be shortening is one, joining two prayer is another one. So we're going to tackle both of them in and of itself, and then we're going to merge them together at the end, okay? So the prayer of a traveler. Any one of you traveled and prayed the prayer of a traveler? Yes? Beyond 50 miles? Okay. And how do you usually pray? Combine what and what? Asr and Maghrib? Yeah? Dhuhr and Asr? Maghrib and Isha. What about Fajr? No? Okay. We're going to explore all that and see. So let's talk about the shortening of the prayer. Right? There's something called Jam, combining, and then Qasr, shortening. So when we talk about shortening, usually how many rak'ah are there? Fajr is 2, and then Dhuhr 4, Asr 4, Maghrib 3, and Isha 4. So when we talk about shortening the prayer, we're talking about the prayers that are in 4-unit cycle, which is Dhuhr, Asr, and Isha. Those are the ones which I'm going to shorten. As for Fajr, which is 2, and Maghrib, which is 3, I am not going to shorten it. Okay? So, and when I shorten it, to what length am I shortening it? Usually it's 4. Now I'm shortening it to 2. So I'm going to perform Dhuhr, Asr, and Isha is going to be, rather than 4, is going to be 2. Okay? And the purpose of these, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always tells us in the Quran, He wants ease for us. Yuridu Allah bikum al-usr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants yusr, sorry. Not usr. Yuridu Allah bikum al-yusr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants ease for us, not difficulty. Right? So He subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we're traveling, the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says traveling is a portion of punishment. Right? So there's a lot of difficulties in traveling, even today. Even though we have a lot of advanced means of transportation, like, right, we have planes, trains, comfortable cars, right? We no longer ride on animals. But even then, still traveling comes with its own challenges and difficulties. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that, out of His mercy and rahmah, He facilitated for us to have ease in connecting to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. That He gives us dispensation, He gives us rukhas, that we now can shorten prayers when we are traveling. Okay? So what is the hukum of shortening prayer? What is the hukum of shortening a prayer? Meaning, what is the legal status of shortening a prayer? It's permissible. There's different legal rulings, okay? One, it's permissible. When is it going to be permissible for me now to shorten my prayer? When I am either traveling a distance of 2 marhala or over 3 marahil. So distance of 2 or 3 stages. In the books, you'll see stages. What does that equate to? It's 50 miles or 75 miles, right? Because the schools have different understanding now, right? We're going to talk about what the Shafi'i school holds. But usually, in the books of fiqh, that it's permissible for you to shorten your prayer only if you're traveling a distance of 50 miles or 75 miles. That is one. The first ruling is what? It's permissible, jaiz. The second one is it's confirmed sunnah, sunnah muakkada. When does it become a confirmed sunnah? That the travel is 3 stages or more. That the travel is 75 miles or more. Meaning, when the travel is 75 miles or more, I am actually emphatically encouraged to shorten my prayer. Right? I am emphatically encouraged to shorten my prayer. And what do we mean by confirmed sunnah? That the Prophet ﷺ, any time that he traveled a distance of these 75 miles, he ﷺ shortened the prayer. And that's why we call it a confirmed sunnah. Or there's some people who, you know what, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them ease, but they don't want to adapt this ease. Meaning that Allah ta'ala tells me and you, when we travel, we can shorten our prayer. But some people they go, no, I don't want to shorten I want to pray the full length prayer. Now at that moment, now it's about the nafs. The Shafi'i scholars say that it becomes sunnah muakkada now for you to take the rukhas, to take the dispensation. Why? Because now it's no longer, oh, I want to do the 4 rak'ah just because of doing it. Now you're like, oh, I can, right? So, to find himself feeling uneasy about shortening the prayer, now the Sharia tells him, look, it's not about you. It's about following what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had made easy and facilitated for you. And then you're emphatically encouraged to shorten your prayer, not to follow your own desire, nafs.
But if you do, are you sinful if you follow like the
No. No, you're not. You're not. Okay? And these, even, we can take this out of our daily task, our daily norm, our daily lives. When we live, the Prophet ﷺ never was he, right, had to choose between something hard or easy. He ﷺ always chose that which is easy. And so for us, in that, even why is it that we want to choose the easy path? Is it because we are lazy? No. Because we want to maximize our connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? That will now free my time to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in other different avenues. Right? And sometimes shortening the prayer can be obligatory. For example, I am traveling, right? I am traveling, and I said, what? Look, I will combine dhuhr with asr at the end. But now the time has elapsed, and when I look at the time, I only have enough time. It's almost at the end of asr. Now almost entering maghrib time. And the time that is remaining is that I can only pray 4 rak'ah. The time that is left. that I can only pray 4 rak'ah. So now I am obligated to shorten my dhuhr 2 and my asr 2 within the time of what? Asr before Maghrib comes in. So at that moment it becomes obligatory. Right? I cannot pray full. Okay. But again, you have to understand this in lieu of what? Traveling. Not like right now, look, I'm lazy. Let me, I did not pray dhuhr. I'll say I combine them later on. And then I wait until the end. Instead of praying 4 rak'ah, I want to pray 2. No. That's not what this is talking about. This is talking about when you're traveling, you had an intention of combining dhuhr and asr. And the time now has elapsed. Now you're at the verge of the end. Maghrib is coming in. All you left is the amount of time that you are able to perform 4 rak'ah. Then you have to only do the 2.
So you're traveling 5 minutes, but can you just shorten it, Zuhur, and then like on its own time, and then shorten Asr on its own time?
We'll talk about that, right? We'll talk about, can I shorten each at its own time? Yeah, we'll talk about that, inshallah. So let's talk about the condition that will permit me to shorten the prayer, right? The general rule is that, can I shorten my prayer? No. The general rule. Can I shorten my prayer? Absolutely not. It is not permissible for me to shorten my prayer. But if certain circumstances and scenarios arises, then the Sharia can be flexible with me and it permits me to shorten the prayer. I can it becomes either permissible, like we talked about, whether it's either 50 miles or 75 miles. Then it can be either obligatory. Okay? What are the conditions permitting me to shorten the prayer? Is setting off for a travel by leaving one's place of residence. Right? What does that mean? That now I'm planning, right now I'm planning to travel, let's say to Richmond. Right? So now, when I'm planning to travel to Richmond, first of all, we'll see, does this travel equate to the distance that is required for me to shorten the prayer? We will look, how many miles is Richmond? Let's say it's 100 miles, for the sake of example. Right? 100 miles from here to Richmond. Okay? Now, when there's different facets to this. So when does the travel begin? Does the travel begin when I leave my doorstep, or when does the travel begin to Richmond?
When you pass the
Huh?
When you pass the border.
When I pass the border of what?
The 50 or the 75.
No, when I pass the border of my city limits. The travel begins the moment that I pass my city limits. Let's say my city is Falls Church. Example, okay? And in every city, you'll always see that there is like leaving Fairfax County, entering Arlington County. Leaving Falls Church County, city, the city of Falls Church, entering, let's say, Alexandria, city of Alexandria, right? And. So my travel will begin not when I leave my doorstep, but when I leave the boundary of my city, right? For example, and I said as an example, my city is Falls Church, so my travel will end when I leave the city. From my house to Richmond is 100 miles. But from my house to the end of the city limit of Falls Church, for example, is 10 miles. So, what is the distance of me now traveling? Where does this distance start? 10 to 90. So I have 10 to 100. So I have 90 miles from my end of city limit to Richmond. So the moment I pass my city limit, now I can start combining my prayer. Now I can start shortening. We talk about shortening first. I can shorten my prayer. The moment that my travel begins, the moment that I leave the city limits. Once I leave my city limits, now I can start combining. But sometimes, yes. Yeah.
So obviously you have a window from Zohar to Asr, right?
Yes.
So you can go there and come back before. So you're not a traveler, obviously, right?
No, we'll talk about that. Hold that. But
I
no,
have that situation right now.
I am traveling. I'm leaving here. I'm going to Richmond.
Yeah.
I'm traveling.
What if I can come back? Like
You can come back. It doesn't matter. Provided the one-way mile is equivalent to the 50 miles. Okay? Provided my one-way going is over 50 miles. Then I can combine the moment I leave. So let's say I was there for a meeting in Richmond. I just went there and I was there for, though I was there Dhuhr time. So it's like, you know what, before I start driving back, I'll say, okay, let me pray my Dhuhr, 2, and combine with my Asr, 2. And I can even come back. And I will reach here before the time of Asr has expired. Guess what? I already prayed.
I had a meeting today. I went there. I'm like, you know what? I can make it, and then I'll just go there, and then when I make it back home, then I'll pray.
Okay, you'll, but,
So I went to Richmond.
yes, yes,
I'm like, I can make it back.
yes.
So after starts, and I can just pray, normal.
So, but when you came back, did you pray 4-4 or you pray 2-2?
No, I just prayed 4.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. That is good. Once you came back, you have to pray 4, and we'll talk about why. But sometimes now when we're traveling, we're either traveling, we're taking a cruise, or we're flying. Most of the time we're flying. But when we're flying, when does the moment of travel begin? Even though I'm within my city, the airport is within my city, right, for example. But when does the travel begins? When I board. The moment I board the plane, right, I start boarding, that already is counted as my travel time. When does the travel end? When one returns to the place from which they started his trip and they're going to stay there. Meaning that I started my trip from this home and I left it like that general because why? Sometimes I am going to different cities. For example, today I'm in Virginia and then tomorrow I'm going to be, let's say, Texas. So from here to Texas, I'll be spending one day in Texas. But I left Texas, okay? I went to Ohio. I stayed in Ohio for 2 days, but now I'm going back to Texas for another like 7 days. The moment I get back to Texas, my travel has ended. Because why? I'm staying more than the minimum amount of time. Or from Texas back to Virginia, Virginia is my home. I go back, my travel has ended. Yes, there's a duration which we're going to talk about. What equates for me to be a traveler? What is the minimum days? 24 hours or this and that. We'll talk about that. Yeah. Okay?
Obviously, like you said, you go there, you're going to be staying 5-4 days.
Yes.
It's no longer considered travel.
Yep.
Once you get there.
So when one reaches the limits of his city, right? That's the example that I'll just give, right? From Virginia to Texas, Texas to Ohio, and then I went back to Texas. So even though Texas is not my home, but I'm going to stay in Texas for, let's say, 7 days. And that I'm intending to stay there more than 3 days. Okay? So the minimum amount of days that is going to consider me a traveler is 3 days. And that does not count the travel to and the travel from. That doesn't count those times. But once I get there, let's say, for example, I am going to Georgia. I'll be in Georgia for 5 days. When I arrive in Georgia, am I a traveler?
When you arrive there?
Yes. Am I a traveler?
When you get there?
Yes, I'm not a traveler. Why? Because I'm going to stay in Georgia for 5 days. And the minimum days is that I am going to be considered a traveler as what? 3 days. 3 days and below, I'm a traveler. Let's say for example purposes, and even the books they write 4 days. 4 days, why? Because the moment I'm going to stay at a place for 4 days, I'm no longer a traveler. I stay at a place for 2 days, I'm a traveler. 1 day, I'm a traveler. Right? The moment I stay 4 days, and over, then I'm no longer a traveler. Yes.
So when you're leaving and your intention is to stay there 5 days, right?
Yes.
So you landed, you're not a traveler.
I'm no longer a traveler.
Distance, you are a traveler.
This distance I'm traveling. Yes. In between, whatever happens, I can combine, I can shorten, and all these things.
You know your intention, you'll be there 5
Yep.
days.
But once I arrive, the moment I arrive, now I become a resident. Okay? So now there's other things too. Look, I'm going for a business trip. I don't know how many days I'm going to be there. I don't know. It depends with, for example, I'm a businessman. It either depends with if my deal goes through, my contracts goes through, then I can be there as little as maybe 2 days or as long as even maybe months, depending on how my deal is going to go. At that moment, I don't know how many days I'm going to be there. So what happens in this scenario? What happens to this individual? He doesn't know. What did we say a minimum requirement? For you, Ibrahim, now let's say, for example, you're going to Texas. You know you're going to Texas to do a business for 4 days. Once you reach in Texas, are you a traveler?
Yeah.
No. Once you arrive, you're not a traveler. Okay. Okay. See the Adam. Adam is going to California. He has a business deal that is a huge deal that he's trying to close. So this deal, he doesn't know when it's going to close. It's going to take 2 days. It's going to take 15 days. It's going to take 2 months. He doesn't know. So every day he is in a limbo. Oh, is it going to close today? No. Stay. Is it going to close today? Stay. Is it going to close today? Until what point is he allowed to shorten the prayer? 4 days? No. Because he doesn't know that it will give them, in the Shafi'i school, it will give him 18 days.
Extension.
18 days. Because he doesn't know. He's always, will I travel today or no? Travel today or no? I don't know. I have to wait for the deal. They tell him, oh, the deal is going to close maybe in 2 days. The 2 days come and oh, yeah, but this paperwork, somebody did not sign on, it keeps delaying. He has up to 18 days. After 18 days, regardless of him leaving, now this is the 18th day. And so today is day 19. Day 19, he resumes praying like a resident. He can no longer shorten it, even though he might know that I'm leaving tomorrow. Provided you've passed the mark of 18 days, now after 18 days, you can no longer shorten your prayer. Let's say he knows I'm going to leave day 21. He knows I'm going to leave day 21. Like, look, like they signed the deal, everything went through. They're like, oh yeah, good. We'll let you sign the contract on the 20th, and on the 21st he's going to go back home. Right? So that is 19, 20, 21. That's 3 days. That's his. Technically, outside will consider him a traveler. But because he's been in this place for 18 days, and the Sharia will give him a flexibility of 18 days, now for these 3 days, even though technically he's a traveler, but he can no longer shorten the prayer. Understood that? Yes. You understood that? Okay.
So, I'm Rajal. I'll book for 2 weeks. The minute I get there,
So you booked for 2 weeks. Once the moment you get there, you're no longer a traveler.
Okay, gotcha.
Basically, if you know how long you're staying,
Yes.
you're not a traveler.
Yeah, you're no longer a traveler.
Wow. Quick question for
Yes.
you. When you shorten and when you combine, you make like
We'll talk about the both later on. We'll talk about the combination
making
in a little bit. Yes. We'll talk about the combination in a little bit. Let's talk about just the shortening. Uh-huh. Yes. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yeah, we'll talk about that. We will talk about that. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Yes, we'll talk about that. Yes, it's coming.
I have a quick question.
It's coming. Yes.
Why they put 2 or 3 stages instead of as soon as you pass 2?
Yes, so the 2 stages is usually the Shafis, the 3 stages is the Hanafis. For the Hanafis is 75, right? For, yes, approximately 75 miles. For us, the Shafis is 50 miles. Okay? And for the Hanafis, you can only shorten, you cannot combine. Right? You can only shorten. You cannot combine Dhuhr and Asr. But there's a way to circumnavigate. You can combine at the end of Dhuhr, the beginning of Asr, Jam' al-Suri, what they call.
Oh yeah, like
At the very end. Right? The end of Dhuhr, which you are praying the 2 rak'ah of Dhuhr at Dhuhr time. And then you just right there at the border, and then as soon as Asr enters, you pray Asr 2 rak'ah. To an outsider, it looks like you combined, but you did not. You circumnavigated, so they don't combine. So now, those are the conditions permitting, and now we're going to continue. Now, I have to plan from the beginning to cover the distance that permits shortening. For example, what do I mean by that? Like, let's say, now I intend to leave from here to Richmond. I know that from here to Richmond is 100 miles, an example. Does that equate to the minimum distance that I can shorten? Yes. So I can start shortening. But somebody is saying, look, we just left, me and you, right? We were hanging out, and we just jetted to, let's say, looking for, there's people who you do business with. Now you're going to look for your money. You did some catering and stuff like that. You're going to look for their money. You don't know where these people are. Somebody calls you, they're like, oh yeah, they're in Richmond. So we drive to Richmond. And they're like, oh yeah, they left Richmond, they're in Charlotte. Now boom, we drive to Charlotte. When can we be considered a traveler in this case? No, none. In this case, we will only be considered a traveler, the first example that you gave me, after we've covered 50 miles. Before that, no, because we don't know when we're going to catch them. The moment we pass 50 miles, now we can shorten it. Unlike the other one, it's permissible for me to shorten only when I leave the city limits. But in this example, no. I have to reach the minimum distance for it to be. Another condition is that the travel must not be for a sinful purpose. So there's something called al-asi fi safar or al-asi bis safar. Right? So an individual is living here, they're going to do a contract, right? They're going to do a contract in Nevada. They're going to do a contract, all they're going for is their business. Permissible. Is it permissible to do business? Absolutely. But on the side, while they were doing business, right, it's like, oh yeah, I'm in Vegas, you know what? Let me see what is going on. While he's seeing what is going on, things happen. He committed a sin. Is that considered a sin? Absolutely, that is a sin. But will that sin prevent him from shortening the prayer? No. Why? Because his intention was to do business. Unlike, now I'll give you a second example. An individual drove to later Richmond to rob people. He drove to Richmond to rob people. Now, what is his intention? Robbing. Robbing, is it sinful or not? It's sinful. So this individual is not allowed to shorten the prayer. Why? We spoke about this before. Right? The intention is extremely important. Secondly, now your purpose of this trip is to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when the moment that you are going to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your privileges, you let them go. Because this is to facilitate ease for us. Why would there be ease when I am going to do against the commandment of the one who grants me the ease? Right? Even though He subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful, but we're still accountable. And then this individual is going to be not able to combine, to shorten the prayer. Now the question is, now what if he repents on the way? So right, he wants to rob, he goes, and the moment is like halfway in between, it's like, oh subhanallah, astaghfirullah, I shouldn't do this. Let me just go see my uncle who lives over there. Instead of robbing, now he's saying, okay, let me go see my uncle. He repented and changed his intention. Can he now combine? Can he now shorten? Yes, he can shorten. Okay. Another condition that permits shortening the prayer is only the prayers with 4 rak'ah, which we've mentioned before. So can I shorten Fajr? Can I shorten Maghrib? Thank you. So now we've spoken about the reasons that gives us. The main thing is traveling, and that travel has to be for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or something permissible. Right? It has to be something permissible, even if it's not for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That should be always our purpose. When we're doing any mundane thing, bi'idhnillah, we should do it for this liwajhillah, for the sake of Allah ta'ala. But be it business, be it school, be it whatever I'm doing, it has to be permissible when I'm taking that trip. Okay? And we said the minimum days is what? 3 days. 4 days and above, will I combine? Will I shorten, sorry? No. 4 days and above, I cannot shorten. Okay. What if, so now, the example of Adam we gave, he's going for a business. He doesn't know for how long he's going to live. 18 days. Right? 19 days, the day 19th and onwards, he has to? Resident. Okay. Condition for validity of shortening the prayer. Now, we've talked about the reasons. Now, when is it valid? To intend to shorten, now this is the question that you asked me, right? And then you ask about the combination and shortening. Let's tackle the first one first. To intend to shorten the prayer with the opening takbirah. Meaning that I can only intend to shorten when I am opening my takbirah, when I'm opening my salah. Let's say I open my salah, Allahu Akbar, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I was like, I need to shorten the prayer. No, I cannot shorten the prayer. If it did not occur with the takbiratul ihram, then I cannot shorten the prayer. It's not valid. If one intends after one's intention does not count and he needs to pray what? 4 rak'ah. That's what we just talked about. Meaning that I just, right now, for example, I want to pray Asr. Right? I want to pray Asr. I'm traveling, for example. Right now, can I shorten the prayer? Yes, it's permissible for me to shorten the prayer. Good, okay. When can I make that intention? The moment I'm opening my prayer. The moment I say Allahu Akbar, I cannot make the intention of shortening now. Prior to that, I can. Okay. Another validity is one should not follow the Imam performing the prayer in full. That prayer in full can be two. Either me starting with the Imam, meaning I came to the masjid, I'm a traveler, okay, for example, right now. I'm new to this city, I'm just passing through. But I came, you guys are praying Asr. I join you behind the Imam, I can no longer shorten. I have to pray the full. That can be either I started with the Imam or I caught the Imam within the prayer, even the last sitting of the tashahhud. Rak'ah number 4, the Imam is sitting, at-tahiyyatu al-mubarakatu. I came and Allahu Akbar, I joined him. At that moment, I have to pray what? My full prayer 4. Even though I caught him, the Jama'ah, I will now pray 4. Yes. Another thing is that one is aware of the permissibility of shortening the prayer for travel. Knowledge, being discerned. We've talked about this before in a lot of, in Hajj, in fasting, in purification. We spoke about this in length. one's travel should last from the start of the prayer to its end. For example, we'll give you a good example right now. Ibrahim, you're just in Richmond, right? You started, when Asr started, you're in Richmond. For example, you're in Richmond. But you came back, it's still time of Asr. Can you now shorten the prayer? No, you cannot shorten the prayer. Because you came back. Because we have a qaida, we have an axiom that says, إِذَا جَمَعَ الْهَدَرْ وَالسَّفَرْ, if traveling and residency meet or combine. Now you faced, okay, am I traveling or am I a resident? I don't know. إِذَا هَدَرَ السَّفَرْ وَالْهَدَرْ قُدِّمَتِ الْهَدَرْ, that precedence is given to that I am a resident. Meaning that my shortening, I cannot shorten, I will resume as a resident. And that question, this axiom is going to help you again. If I am traveling, for example, okay, for example, I am traveling, this is my home. I went to Atlanta, right? I went to Atlanta for 2 days. I'm coming home for 1 day and then I will travel to Ohio. In Atlanta, I will combine. I will shorten. When I come back home, what do I do now? But I'm here only for 1 day. Well, I'll pray my regular. Why? Because I am home. إذا حضر السفر إذا حضر السفر إذا جمع السفر والحضر قدمت الحضر. Okay, that's the qaida. Yes, yes.
When I was leaving, I made the niyya that I'm going to go and I have time to come back during the time and then pray here.
Yes.
So basically, I could not have shortened over there even if I was traveling, correct?
You can.
Because my niyya was that I'm going to come back and pray the full.
If you can make it here. But remember it says permissible, and remember afterwards we say the legal status is obligatory.
I could have.
If you are still there and you didn't make it, and the moment for you, let's say for example, there was a lot of traffic. Now, let's say you were supposed to get here before Asr, but now your GPS is telling you you'll get after Asr, it's obligatory for you to pray and shorten there. Okay? Yes. Now that's about shortening. That I will shorten only when we spoke about that, when I'm traveling. The only reason that is going to give me shortening is when I am traveling. Faqat. Everyone with me? Great. Let's talk about joining the prayer now. Jama. Now, we can either shorten, which we talked about, and combine. So a traveler who is on a long permissible journey, again, permissible is very key. If he's not traveling for that which is permissible, is he going to be given dispensation in the Sharia? No. Then he's permitted to jointly perform them. Which one am I going to perform them? That we have, that the Prophet ﷺ used to perform Dhuhr and Asr prayers together on journeys, and he also used to perform Maghrib and Isha prayers together. Right? كان صلى الله عليه وسلم يجمع بين الصلاة الظهر والعصر إذا كان, right? If he's traveling, and the other one for the rest of the prayers. So I can only combine which ones? Dhuhr and Asr, Maghrib and Isha. I cannot combine Asr and Maghrib. I cannot. I can only combine the two. Asr, Dhuhr, Asr, either as the time of either both. That's why we have something called Jam Taqdeem, and then we have Jam Ta'khir. Right? The combining which is done at the first time, or the combination that is done at the second time.
So you can do it, you can combine it during the Zuhr time, you combine both, or you can combine
Or at the Asr time. No.
I'm sorry, Asr.
Asr time. For both, right? I can either combine at the Dhuhr time or combine at the Asr time. Okay? So what are the things that conditions for permitting joining prayers? When one is on a long permissible journey, what is the measurement of that journey? We spoke about it. Okay? We spoke about that for Dhuhr and Asr. Cases in which it is better, again, it's afdal, for you to shorten and combine the prayers. It's encouraged. When a traveling pilgrim is in Muzdalifah and Arafah. We spoke about this. Right? We spoke about this in the Kitab al-Hajj. The second one is one who is uncomfortable combining prayers or doubts its validity. Just like the other one when we said about confirmed emphatic sunnah. It's not about the hawa. It's not about the self. It's about worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if He puts ease for us into things, then we are encouraged emphatically to take them. No, so an individual feels uncomfortable combining the prayer. Right? So it's encouraged to perform in the madhab, in our madhab. Other madhabs, they say there's no combination. Okay? So how can I, let's say I can either combine them in the advance, meaning in the time of Dhuhr, or in the time of Maghrib. Okay? How can I do, what are the conditions surrounding it? Any questions so far? What are the conditions surrounding it? One, to make the intention of joining the prayer in the first of the two. Meaning, in the Dhuhr time or Maghrib time. That is the first thing. That I will intend to join the prayer. When do I intend to join this prayer? Just like the other one, before I make or with the Takbiratul Ihram. The moment I say Allahu Akbar, now I've intended, I will shorten and combine. Or I will intend to combine. 2, to begin with the first of the two prayers. I cannot pray Asr and then combine with Dhuhr. I'll have to pray Dhuhr and then Asr. I'll have to pray Maghrib and then Isha. Not Isha and then Maghrib. Doesn't. In the Shafi'i school, we spoke about this before. The sequencing of the prayers is must. Yes.
So you shorten Zuhr to 2 rakat.
Yes.
And then let's say you pray during Asr time Zuhr. You're going to pray 2 rakat Zuhr.
Yes.
And then salam out and then make it takbir again and then pray 2 rakat.
For Asr.
Yeah.
Yep.
My question was, I misunderstood. You cannot say I make a niyyah to pray Zuhr and Asr, like, make one niyyah and then pray 4 rakat straight.
No, I cannot pray 4 rakah straight.
Straight, and then that's what I was asking. So make 2 rakat
Yes.
Zuhr,
Yes.
salam out, and
Yes.
then 2 rakat.
That's absolutely right. I cannot say, okay, I intend to pray Dhuhr and Asr 4 rak'ah, and then I just go full 4 rak'ah. No, I cannot. I have to make the intention of praying Dhuhr, pray the 2, break my prayer, and then pray the other 2, which is Asr, like that. So let's say, for example, if the individual now, he wants to join the prayer, but he prayed Asr and then he prayed Dhuhr. What happens? The joining is not permissible. And he has to re-pray in sequence.
Order.
Yes, in order, remember? Continuity between the two prayers because they're considered one. Meaning that I will pray the 2 and then immediately pray the other one. I cannot pray this and then go for another one now and then come back and then pray the other 2. No. What is the duration between them? The duration between them is the enough time for me to go, and if I break wudu, I go renew wudu and come back. That's the enough time for me. How much does it take me to take wudu? Maybe let's say 5 minutes. It has to be within that time limit. So if one leaves off a pillar in the first prayer, for example, I'm praying Dhuhr, I'm combining it with Asr. In the Dhuhr prayer, I missed a pillar. Let's say I missed 1 rak'ah. What happens? No, the prayer is invalid and the combination is invalid.
You missed the pillar.
I missed a pillar. The combination is invalid, and I have to pray again both. Great. What if one missed a pillar in the second prayer though? He prayed Dhuhr, okay, in the first one, and then in the second one he missed a pillar in the second Asr. You'll just have to repeat Asr, not both, like before, right? Great. What if time has elapsed between the two, meaning that, right, I prayed Dhuhr, and then I was just chatting, and then for an hour passed. Can I combine? No. Can I perform a non-obligatory prayer between the two? Meaning, pray the two Dhuhr, and then pray Nafil, and then pray Asr? No, I cannot. I cannot pray a Nafil between the two. If I'm combining, I have to combine them both successfully, consecutively, right? What if one loses wudu after the first prayer? Can they still join them? Yes, right? The amount of time they actually have is for them to go renew their wudu and then come back. And the other condition is what? That you are certain that the first prayer is valid. If you're sure that the first prayer is invalid, will the first prayer count? No. And then now I have to pray both of them together. And now the question is, can I join the first Jumu'ah? When I say the first Jumu'ah, the first Jumu'ah at Darujah is at 11 o'clock. Can I join the Jumu'ah of 11 o'clock, or even now the Jumu'ah of 12 o'clock, right, with the Asr? Think about that question. I'm traveling, right? I'm not, as a traveler, I'm excused from praying Jumu'ah. But I came to the masjid, I was like, look, it's a new community, I like it. Let me just pray and then I'll continue with my journey. Okay. But the Jumu'ah that I came for is 11 o'clock Jumu'ah. Can I combine Asr with that Jumu'ah? Let's say, for example, I come to the last Jumu'ah, Sheikh Farhan's Jumu'ah. I came, I pray Jumu'ah. Can I combine it with Asr? Yes, good. I can combine Jumu'ah with Asr. Okay, great. I'll pray the two Jumu'ah with the Sheikh, and then I'll pray my 2 rak'ah for Asr with the Niyyah. Again, the other conditions still apply. Now I'm asking a specific question. The first Jumu'ah in the Hijrah is at 11 a.m. Can I combine Asr prayer at the 11 a.m. Jumu'ah?
No.
Why not?
Zenith has not.
Huh? The time of Dhuhr hasn't come in. Great. The time of Dhuhr hasn't come in. And for us, again, this Jumu'ah in Shafi'i school doesn't count. But even then, we have agreed that we can pray, but I cannot combine Asr because the time of Dhuhr hasn't come in. Great. Nice. Now there's something called, right? Now that is the advanced combination. Jam' at-taqdeem. Let's talk about the Jam' at-takhir. The delayed combination is to intend to join the two prayers before the time of the first prayer is over. Meaning, I'm in Dhuhr right now. I have to make the intention right now in Dhuhr that I will delay my prayer to combine them at the Asr time. But if I do not make the intention and the time passes and I'm going to now at Asr time say, oh, I intend to pray, then now I'm sinful, 1, 2, and I'm going to pray a make up. I'm sinful because I missed a prayer, and the prayer that I'm going to pray now is going to become a make up.
So within the window.
Huh?
Within the window before it becomes Hazar, you have to make the
Yes,
intention.
yes. Before now the time of Dhuhr leaves, I have to make the intention. That I make the intention now that
You gotta combine.
I will combine in the time of Asr. And right? So that why it's now, it's absolutely necessary for me now to distinguish between delayed combination and the advanced combination. I have to distinguish that. Right? We spoke about that. If one delays without having the intention to combine, right? Then it becomes, it's sinful and it becomes qada.
I have a question. Like when you give the example of the Jumu'ah at 11 o'clock, you couldn't combine because the Zuhr did not came in.
Yes.
But you can combine Asr with the Zuhr, you said, right? Like,
Yes, I can wait.
the Asr hasn't come, but you can combine to Zuhr.
Yes, I can. If only Dhuhr time has come in.
Only as Zuhr time came in?
Yes.
Or Asr is less around 4
I can combine at the, yes, it's okay. Continuation of travel until completion of the first prayer, not just entering into it. Meaning that, like you did, that I'm still in traveling when the first prayer is in. Meaning I'm still on my way to, let's say, New York, and it's Dhuhr time. I'll say, look, I will combine my prayer now at the time of Asr. Right? By the time Asr reaches, and now I arrived at Asr in New York, what happens? And I'm going to stay in New York for 2 weeks. I'm going to stay in New York for 2 weeks. We have 4 minutes. A residence. Now I'm going to pray 4.
But you already combined.
I did not combine in this scenario.
But could you have combined?
Yes, I can have combined. Yes. But the moment I remember the axiom, if traveling and residency come together, then residency takes precedence, and then right?
Yeah, if you become a resident,
And like the other one, first you pray the first prayer, even if it is delaying the first prayer.
that's a nice look that you combine and
Yes. So another one is advanced joining in rainy weather. It's permissible to advancedly join the prayer if the rain, it's extremely raining. Not the shower, extremely raining. For a congregation though, not at home like the Hanbalis. No, when only I'm praying in a congregation. And this applies for extreme,
allowed during the rain, right?
during the rain at home.
At home.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. The Shafis, he has to be at congregation, Jama'ah. We can combine. And that has to be like a huge rain, like a huge amount of rain that is going to cause harm for people to come. Right? Storm, severe like hailstorm and stuff like that. Okay? And then we have the hadith that she asked, that Ibn Abbas in Sahih Muslim says that the Prophet ﷺ combined the noon and afternoon prayer and combined the Maghrib and Isha prayer without any danger of travel. What happens? How can we understand that? Without no traveling, meaning that without excuse.
Yeah, but
Can we combine without any excuse? In the Shafi'i school, there's different views. There's 3 views. One of the views is the views of Imam himself. And it said that Imam Shafi'i himself had 2 views. One, it's either it's not permissible to combine, and this hadith actually talks about this happened during the rain. During the rain.
that's what I'm saying, during the rain, probably.
But the thing is that this is narrated in Sunan of Abu Dawud. But the same narrator who narrates asked Ibn Abbas, why did the Prophet ﷺ do that? The next hadith in Sahih Muslims actually said what? The Prophet ﷺ wanted to make ease for his ummah. He didn't say it's because of rain. So now, for the person who takes this narration, it'll be like, no, we have another narration that is conflicting. But because of time, inshallah, we'll continue with this next week.
Next week.
Okay? So next week I'll tell you all the other opinions. Yes, I want you to come next week. So we gonna
The real sweet spot.
yes sir. So now we left at what? Can I combine without any reasoning? For the answer, check back next week. Wa sallallahu sallam ala nabina Muhammad wa ala alihi.
Allah bless you, brother.
Does that count as one of the crazy thunderstorms we have here, or no?
Yeah, that counts.
That counts.
So Sahih Muslim is going to be here. We'll go tell the Sheikh. Huh? You know.
Yeah, I'm gonna.